August 1975, Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis is in the middle of My Way, the song that defines him, when his voice cracks and disappears completely. 2,500 people hold their breath. What happens next becomes legendary. August 1975. If you saw Elvis perform in Las Vegas during the summer of 1975, you knew something was wrong. He was struggling. His weight fluctuated wildly. Some nights he could barely move on stage. Other nights he was brilliant, vintage Elvis, reminding everyone why he was the king. But the voice was suffering. Years of touring, prescription medications, health problems, and the relentless schedule were taking their toll on that incredible instrument that had changed music forever. August 22, 1975, the Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis was in the middle of his second show of the night. He'd already performed at dinner time. Now it was the midnight show, and he was exhausted before he even walked on stage. But 2,500 people had paid good money to see him. Elvis didn't believe in canceling shows. So he walked out into those spotlights, put on his smile, and started performing. The first hour went well enough. C.C. Ryder, I Got a Woman, Love Me. His voice was tired but holding. The audience was loving it, screaming, reaching for him when he came close to the edge of the stage. Then came My Way. My Way. My Way had become Elvis's signature song in the 1970s. Not one of his rock and roll classics, not a movie song. My Way, the Frank Sinatra anthem about living life on your own terms, about facing death without regrets. For Elvis, the song was deeply personal. Every night when he sang it, he was singing about his own life, the choices he'd made, the price of fame, the road he'd traveled that nobody else could truly understand. The band started the opening notes. The audience quieted, knowing this was one of the emotional peaks of the show. Elvis gripped the microphone and began. And now, the end is near. His voice sounded rough, strained, but he pushed through. And so I faced the final curtain. He was putting everything into it, every ounce of emotion those lyrics held for him. But when he reached the chorus, I did it my way, something happened. His voice cracked. Not a small crack, a complete break. And then it was gone. Just gone. Elvis stopped singing. The band, confused, kept playing. Elvis tried again. Nothing came out but a rough whisper. He couldn't sing. His voice had given out completely. The audience went silent. 2,500 fans watching him stand on stage, unable to make a sound. The decision. Then Elvis makes a decision that stuns everyone in the room. Elvis stood at the microphone for what felt like forever. The band had stopped playing, uncertain what to do. Joe Guercio, the musical director, was making hand signals asking if Elvis wanted to skip the song. Elvis could have walked off stage. Could have apologized, ended the show early. Nobody would have blamed him. Instead, Elvis did something completely unexpected. He walked to the front of the stage and sat down. Just sat right there on the edge, legs hanging over. Close enough that people in the first row could have touched him. "Folks," Elvis said, his voice barely above a whisper but carrying through the microphone. "I'm having a little trouble here. Voice is gone. I don't think I can sing this one." The audience made sympathetic sounds, disappointment mixed with concern. Elvis looked out at all those faces looking back at him with such love, such loyalty. "But you know what? This is my favorite song, and I really want to hear it tonight. So I'm going to ask you something. Would you sing it for me?" The audience takes over. What the audience does next has never happened before in Vegas history. For a moment, nobody moved. Sing for him? They'd come to hear him sing. But then someone in the third row started singing. Quietly at first, testing if it was okay. And now, the end is near. A few people joined in, then more. Within seconds, the entire audience was singing My Way to Elvis Presley. 2,500 voices, filling the showroom, singing the song that defined him, while Elvis sat on the edge of the stage and listened. The band started playing again, softly at first, then building as the audience grew louder. Elvis sat there, tears streaming down his face, listening to his fans sing his song back to him. He conducted them, raising his hand to bring them louder, lowering it when he wanted them softer. He smiled. He cried. He mouthed the words along with them, even though no sound came from his throat. When they reached the chorus, "I did it my way," the entire room exploded with sound. People were belting it out, pouring their hearts into it, singing for Elvis the way he'd sung for them for 20 years. In the front rows, people were crying as they sang. In the back, people stood, hands on their hearts. The Jordanaires were crying in the wings. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. 2,500 different voices trying to stay together, some on key, some not. But it was the most beautiful thing anyone in that room had ever heard. Because it was pure love, the audience giving back to the man who'd given them so much. If you ever saw Elvis perform live, share your memory in the comments. What was it like to be in the same room with him? And if you're discovering these stories for the first time, subscribe. There are so many more moments like this. The breakdown. When the audience reached the final verse, Elvis couldn't take it anymore. The emotion was too much. He put his face in his hands and sobbed, not quiet tears, but full, body-shaking sobs. Joe Esposito started to walk on stage, worried. But Charlie Hodge held him back. "Let them finish. He needs this." The audience sang the final chorus and held the last note until their breath ran out. Then there was silence. Complete, total silence. Elvis looked up, his face wet with tears, mascara running, hair falling in his face. Vulnerable, human, real. He tried to speak, couldn't. Tried again, finally managed, "Thank you so much." The audience erupted in applause. Not the usual screaming, frantic Elvis applause. This was different. Deeper. It was 2,500 people saying, "We love you." Not Elvis the star, you, the person. Elvis sat there another minute, trying to compose himself. Finally, he stood up, walked back to the microphone, whispered to the band. They started playing "Can't Help Falling in Love." And somehow, miraculously, Elvis found his voice again. Not the full, powerful voice of his youth, but enough. Rough and broken and beautiful, he sang his closing song to the people who'd just sung for him. The aftermath. By the final note, grown men are crying. By the time Elvis finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the Las Vegas Hilton. Tough Vegas gamblers were crying. Showgirls were crying. The waitresses serving drinks were crying. Elvis left the stage without his usual energetic exit. Just walked off slowly, waving, blowing kisses, still crying. Backstage, he sat in his dressing room, still in his jumpsuit, staring at nothing. "You okay, boss?" Joe asked. Elvis looked up. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Did you hear them? Did you hear them sing for me?" The story spread through Vegas that night like wildfire. By morning, it was in newspapers. Elvis loses voice, audience sings to him. But the headlines didn't capture it. You had to be there to understand. It wasn't just an audience helping a sick performer. It was pure communion between an artist and his fans. A moment where all the fame fell away, and it was just human beings connecting through music. What it meant. And musicians who were there still call it the most powerful performance they ever witnessed. Glenn D. Hardin, Elvis's piano player, later said, "I played with Elvis for years. I was there for great shows and rough ones. But that night when he couldn't sing and the audience sang for him, that was the most powerful moment I ever experienced in music. It wasn't about the voice or the moves. It was about the connection, the love." Some fans who were there wrote letters to Elvis afterward. One woman wrote, "I came to Vegas to escape my problems. Instead, I got to sing to you. And somehow, singing those words helped me more than hearing you sing them ever could. Thank you for needing us." Another wrote, "My father died the week before your concert. My Way was his favorite song. When you couldn't sing it and asked us to help, I sang it for my dad. I sang it for you. I sang it for everyone who's ever struggled. It was the most healing thing I've ever done." Elvis performed thousands of concerts in his life. Some were technically perfect, some were disasters. But the night his voice gave out stands out because it revealed what performance really means. It's not about perfection. It's about vulnerability, about the relationship between the person on stage and the people watching. That night, Elvis couldn't give his audience what they'd paid for. But by admitting his weakness, by asking for help, he gave them something more valuable. He let them see him as human. He let them give back. And in that exchange, something beautiful happened. The line between performer and audience disappeared. They were just people sharing profound emotion through a song. On August 22, 1975, Elvis Presley's voice gave out completely mid-performance. It could have been a disaster, a humiliation. Instead, it became one of the most beautiful moments in music history, because 2,500 fans showed Elvis what he'd given them all those years. They showed him he wasn't alone, that they loved him not for his perfection, but for his humanity. If this story moved you, share it. Share it with anyone who's ever felt like they had to be perfect, like showing weakness was failure. Sometimes our most powerful moments come when we admit we can't do it alone. Subscribe for more untold Elvis stories that reveal the vulnerable human side of the legend. Elvis wasn't great because he was perfect. He was great because he was real. And if you're going through something difficult right now, remember, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let others sing for you when your voice is gone. That's not weakness. That's being human. Thank you for watching.